also to close the gender gap that's still, very significant within the technology space specifically. I'm very excited to launch the chapter as one of the first chapters on this African continent. So I am hoping that, throughout the chapter we'll be able to help more women involved in this sector to really uplift them throughout their careers and throughout the tech space and help build the ecosystem within South Africa. I've got a part of a really great team working with us as part of this movement, board members Erica Reed and Walani Mabaso, and we've got some excellent speakers who will help us launch the South African chapter today, which Walani will introduce for us as well. And I look really forward to talking about how we can really collaborate in South Africa to create a more inclusive space for women in technology in South Africa. So Erica, over to you.
Thank you, Mel, and a very warm welcome to everybody for this afternoon session. I hope that from a South African point of view, you're all keeping warm in the crazy weather that we're having, and to everybody else, I hope. So just really from my part, I'm very honoured to be here as an ambassador for Women in Tech and to be part of the team that was inspired by Mel for the opening of the South African chapter, which is our first brand new live event, which we are hosting today. And really to Huani and all the ladies that have given up their time today to actually contribute and share their experiences with us. It's most appreciated, and I think is going to go a long way to inspire a lot of women and girls out there. I've always looked for an opportunity to be able to kind of give back. And I think the Women in Tech platform has really created a really perfect vehicle to help women and girls actually advance in this future forward industry, which is the tech space. I've been very privileged to have some amazing women as role models in my life, and I'm hoping that through this particular chapter we can do a similar thing and really provide some inspiration for women and girls coming through the ranks. I think women have got some unique talents to actually offer and bring much needed diversity to this space. So I definitely look forward to making a very positive impact and all together as a very strong team in the South African context. So thank you.
Walani, you joined us as a board member as well. Can you introduce yourself and tell us more about the reasons why you're part of Women in Tech?
Thank you, Melissa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walani Mabaso. I am quite privileged to be on this platform sharing this afternoon with you today. So I'm quite excited to be part of this groundbreaking moment for South Africa, especially for women in tech. For me, women are the most important people at this point in time in terms of careers. We're mothers, we are quite supportive, but I do think that this is actually a space where we can get more and more women understanding that technology is here to stay. We cannot run away from it. The world is changing, and I'm quite happy that I can be part of, this global movement where we are collaborating and making sure that women can be taken care of in the space for technology. Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome. And we've got some great speakers lined up as well to speak about the collaborative aspects of, women in tech in South Africa and to make it more inclusive. Walani, are you ready to introduce our speakers for today?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for the first Global Movement 24-hour virtual tour. As I already said, my name is Walani Mabaso. I am a board member for Women in Tech South Africa, as well as a provincial general manager for Absa Bank. I will be your moderator for this session. In the last couple of decades, the world has made huge strides when it comes to women involvement in the workforce. Women make up nearly half of the total workforce. Despite all the progress that has been made by women, things do not look so rosy when it comes to the tech industry. For decades, careers in the tech industry and other STEM fields have not been so welcoming to women. There is a huge gender gap between men and women in the STEM fields. This gap manifests itself through various aspects, including employment opportunities, wages, leadership opportunities, perceptions at the workforce, and so on. Today, joining me, I've got an amazing panel of phenomenal women who are in the tech space, and we'll be focusing on a topic that talks about collaboration to create an inclusive space for women in tech. Joining me is Baratang Mia, who is the CEO at Girl Hype Coders. Welcome, Baratang.
Thank you.
I also have Lauren Dallas, who also is the co-founder for Future Females. Welcome to you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Lastly, she is the youngest MD for Accenture South Africa. That's Pratna Singh. So ladies, thank you so much for coming through. So before I actually get to the business of the day, I would just like to take you through the process and what we will be going through today. So we will take a few moments for each of the panelists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about their background in the industry. I will then kick off the conversation asking questions that draw out some of the high-level themes and trends we should be thinking about. And then the second half of this time today, we'll open up the floor to give you an opportunity to ask specific questions that you've been thinking about to help you navigate the upcoming opportunities and challenges to be more successful in your career. Please use the chat function for any questions as we go along. Our goal today is that whatever your role is in this industry, that you will come away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy that you can apply to be more successful in your career or business. So Baratang, I'll start with you. Let's hear, where did the journey start for you?
For me, the journey started 17 years ago. I'm a self-taught coder. So I started learning how to code and I realized, for me, it's something that's very important to learn and to teach other girls. So girls had been a passionate for me because when I was at university, I had experienced the worst nightmare of my life. I came from South Africa where came from what in South Africa they would call previously disadvantaged background. And for me, some people had decided that I needed inferior education. And the impacts of that, I would suffer them at university. Now, when I was a little girl, I was a very vibrant girl who thought she was intelligent, who had been given accolades for working hard. And I get to university and all that disappeared within a split second by virtue of being Black and a woman. And that for me was just sad. I couldn't understand why I was denied good education by virtue of my skin color. So I thought, you know what, the problem is in schools. Because if I can be equipped properly in school, it doesn't matter who thinks what about me when I enter the room or when I'm at school. The only thing that I have to do is be prepared efficiently. And you know what is the better way to do it than tech? So I chose technology because the industry was growing super fast. Even then, 17 years ago, you could see that this is one of the industry that's going to grow very big. So I decided to teach girls how to code there and there. So Girl Hype has been operating for 17 years. I got some people to start it with me and partnered with universities in companies, which is like corporates and other NGOs in the community to start reaching more girls and make sure that we teach them software development. So we start tech clubs in schools and the girls attend in school during the week. And then on weekends, they come to our program where we teach them tech and entrepreneurship. And it has been a very wild journey where at the same time I had to work to achieve my goals. So when I started there, I also started working for the City of Cape Town as a product designer and a content creator. I built the first website of the City of Cape Town, and it has taken me through a very amazing journey. I'm really grateful that I've touched so many girls in my life. Up to so far, we have more than 100,000 girls that we've taught how to code through Girl Hype.
Wow, that's actually wonderful to hear. So Lauren, you're quite invested into the progression of women in South Africa and women in tech. I'm interested in how it all started for you.
So I really grew up with tech. Both of my parents were in IT, doing computer sales. I remember having one of the very first car phones, one of those huge phones that had to be plugged in to use. And I just got so excited by the access and the mobility. And I actually got an opportunity and entered this competition while I was at university for Microsoft. And it was called their Student House Competition. And it was back in the days of Windows 7. And the premise of Windows 7 was all about connecting and sharing and collaborating, really. So we created all of these campaigns and we ended up winning 7 months free rent in what they called the student house. which was just decked out with, back then, all of the latest technology. And I just remember those 7 months just creating things. And it was at that point where I just committed to myself, I'm not going to just experience the life and the world that other people have created. I want to create the world that I want to live in. It hadn't crossed my mind at that point that other women didn't have this exact same perspective or potentially the access to tech that I had during that time. I started working a lot with tech accelerator programs all around the world, but the spark for me really came when I actually met Baratang in Cape Town at Woodstock when I worked for the Techstars Accelerator. There were 80 people on this program and not one single female founder. So the day after the accelerator ended, we launched Future Females, and our mission is simple. We aim to increase the number of female entrepreneurs and better support their success through education, community, coaching. So we have now launched in 33 cities, a similar model, and we're so happy to be part of this Women in Tech conference. Obviously, we're super mission aligned, and we have around 40,000 members of our community building profitable lifestyle businesses.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So Pratna, coming to you. You are obviously one of our youngest managing director for Accenture in South Africa, which is quite a phenomenal achievement at such a young age. What sparked the interest for you?
Thank you so much, Ulani, and thank you everybody for joining and for making the space today to be in this discussion. It's really interesting listening to the other speakers, because when I was in my early teens, around 14 years old, something fated happened to me that actually charted my path in the technology space. Like Lauren, I've also entered a competition where it was actually a math competition, and so I'm very passionate about numbers, and maths was a subject I really enjoyed. And I actually won a computer through this maths competition where it's actually called Maths 24. I think some of you might be familiar with it. And it really was having this big personal computer at the age of 14, at a time where technology was just very novel, which gave me the chance to, dabble with this technology and understand how it worked, whether that was around playing a video game or whether that was around understanding how to use a floppy disk at the time. It sparked a flame in me, and it gave me the confidence to actually want to be more curious and understand what this could do even more. It actually was the reason that I, made the decision in high school to take computer studies on as a subject. And it was actually when I went to university that I realized that I was, basically 3 women amongst more than 30 men in my honors year, where I started to then do a study around what were the barriers to women in technology. So yes, I'm at Accenture. Actually, it's been 15 years. It's my 15th year at Accenture. It's a global digital and technology consulting firm. And I'm very passionate that we get more women into these key roles, but also passionate about how we lift women into leadership positions.
That's quite amazing. So just listening to all of you and how you're connected in Baratang, working with young women, and then we've got somebody who's working with females in the space of tech, and obviously yourself, partner, who's working in a corporate world. I think we're going to learn a lot today. So, Lauren, let's go to you. Being an entrepreneur is hard. It's much more so in the tech industry. What are some of the challenges you encountered, and how did you overcome them?
Great. It is hard. A lot of other people in Baratang's laughing. It is an emotional roller coaster. And I think the thing that I have personally struggled with most is mindset. I actually was working at Accenture for several years before starting my businesses. And I think as a consultant, sometimes you have a bit of an ego as well. So I thought I would have this entrepreneur thing absolutely down. And I just remember a couple of months in just going, what the hell am I doing? I had never felt so exposed, so insecure. And what kept coming up for me was what I call the imposter monster, but just this whole idea of like, why should I be successful? Why should my business work? Why do people want to listen to me? We actually just did a survey as well of our global community, and we asked, what is the biggest challenge holding you back? And of course, you hear the standard things, oh, it's funding, oh, it's skills development, it's access to mentors. But actually 89% of them said that it's their mindset holding them back. And the 4 key mindset elements that are challenging is self-doubt, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and procrastination, which are all very much interlinked. So I think that as an entrepreneur, probably also as an entrepreneur, it just comes down to us. The opportunity is there. The funding is there if you ask for it. The programs are available. We can just be our own worst enemy, and you need to stop thinking in here and start just operating out there.
Yeah, so I'm quite impressed that you're talking about the survey that you just did recently. And you're touching on, the imposter syndrome, that people don't really believe that that's the space that they need to be in. So by the time you're working with young girls, how are you actually preparing them to make sure that as they grow older, they can actually overcome some of these challenges and, go and be change makers in the tech industry? So Baratan, we couldn't hear you.
I'm saying I'm going to use, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll use a keyword before I get off trail and say mentorship. Most of the girls, I grew up in a community where I've only seen teachers and nurses. I did not know the capabilities within me. I did not know the powers I have. And in Africa, using the word power as a woman, in my African culture, it was not a big thing. So I grew up in a space where I had to, without realizing it, everything I was taking in. And now what we the girls, besides teaching them how to code and software development, we teach them how to pitch in front of judges, how to build their own apps, how to build businesses, and take whatever they've decided to make sure that they solve their own issues in their own communities. And what we do is we allow them to know their environment, work with their environment, but bring women who've made it, who've just brought difference in their own life and who are doing it in the industry. And those women's role is just to say to the girls, they need to discover themselves. We are not living in this time of our life. Now, for me, I always tell the girls, I didn't come to live this time of my life to play it small. I came this time of my life so that I should be able to achieve the greatness inside of me. And that might come in tech, that might come in law. However, discover that greatness inside. And you won't be able to do it unless you see role models. So for me, role models, mentoring, and for us is making sure that they see the spaces that they're going to work with. They take up the space. We take them to field work. We make sure that they become the future, because you cannot be what you can't see.
Wow, fantastic. So Pratna, just adding on to what Ratang was sharing with us, being a woman sitting in a boardroom with a lot of men out there, obviously you do go through some of the challenges and you foresee some of the challenges that we experience in this industry. Can you share with us your journey through that and navigating to ensure that you become this powerhouse that we see today?
Sure. I think it's important that, I loved what was just spoken about in discovering who you are, because it is very important to have a point of view. But it is important to have a point of view in a couple of areas. One, you need to have the competence. So, there are at the moment a combustion of different skills that women in tech will need to learn, both the hard skills, whether that's around coding, whether that's around exponential skills like IoT or machine learning or robotics or virtual reality, combined with the soft skill, which is how do you actually articulate your story? How do you actually tell a story about what are you really trying to solve for? How do you actually, craft your technology story and link it to business outcomes or link it to whatever it is you're trying to solve for? And so it's really a commitment to, being able to have a sort of series of hard and soft skills. The second thing is really around courage. There's something to be said for, having and building grit or resilience. And I don't think it's only in the corporate space, but I think it's really as a woman in South Africa. And having the courage to actually know what holds you back. and really having the courage to have a voice for the things that matter, and to have, and as part of the South African chapter, I really envision us collaborating on some of these stories around how we had to be courageous and how we had to carve out a space either for us to realize what was holding us back and learn about how we could navigate that path, or on the other hand, having the courage to actually understand what is it that we need to create visibility around. Because growing up in the firm, not only did I have women role models and sponsors, but it was also important that I had male role models and sponsors that I was comfortable to interact with. So that's just a few of the things that I've used. But I think what I'll leave you with is that when you believe in yourself, others tend to believe in you too. So it really does start with an inner belief that you can do this.
Okay, that sounds great. You touched on something very important, which is collaboration. And actually, this is obviously the theme for today. So I want us to dwell on that a little bit. Why is it so difficult for us as women to actually collaborate? And how can we actually enable this process and this conversation? And I would like to come to you, Lauren, and just hear a little bit about how you're making sure that females can actually collaborate more.
Sure. So, I mean, this is such a beautiful example in the first place of collaboration, this whole experience, and also the scale of collaboration we can now have, that everything is moved online, and we're reaching this global audience of women who are sitting, in rural Limpopo in South Africa around their kitchen table. It's just so exciting. I think that collaboration isn't difficult once you how much further you can get ahead when you do it. We are so conditioned, and I know my upbringing was conditioned to be incredibly competitive. And this idea that there is this scarcity mentality, right? That if I don't have it, then they have it, and vice versa. So I don't think that it's hard. I think it's just a mindset shift. And we need to look at, the number that really drives me is that it's going to be 108 years to reach gender parity, 135 years in sub-Saharan Africa. And that is at the current run rate with everyone operating as they are. And that's ridiculous. I want to see that in my lifetime. And we're only going to get to that if we all work together. We're also all working towards the same thing. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be collaborating.
I absolutely agree on that one. So Baratang, I look at you and you're smiling. What is going on? How should we be collaborating as women? What are your thoughts around this?
I think, and this is informed by a South African context. So in South Africa, we have Black women who don't have resources. 80% of Black women don't have resources. And for me, collaboration came, and I'll talk about my own experience. Collaboration came when I opened myself to other people. So most of what I've achieved up to so far, it was funny enough, it was white males who back. So every time I want them to fall somewhere, they were like, no, you are going to do it. And through that, I could reach and impact people who cannot afford the courses I could do. So the corporates were paying. They were the ones going out there and making sure that they give. Because when I started 17 years ago and said I'm doing women in tech, nobody cared. So these men were the ones who were saying, no, but we need women in tech. Just listen to what she's saying. And because it was white males who were in the forefront, it made my life very easy. So for me, collaboration comes in when other people can open a door for you, because some doors I won't be able to open them. They were closed for me before I even started. They complemented my skills. I'm very passionate about the kids in the township. I'm very passionate about women. I needed other skills that I mentioned, like how to market, how to build a big organization, how to talk to corporates. It was through collaboration and talking to other people that I got to build those skill sets. The networks. When we collaborate, we all need to know what's in it for us. So most of the people that I collaborated with, they knew what I'm bringing along, that I was bringing women who can get into tech. I was preparing the future for them. And because of that, they collaborated with us in the name of, we know what we are getting. It's in the name of getting more women in tech and building our own diversity and inclusion. And, you know, when you are in a way where we work, people create access, but they're not open and they're not inclusive. So it was up to us to say, look what we can achieve. And if you are part of it, you buy into it. So because they were part of the process, they started opening doors for these young women, because some of them, we get them jobs. And to get someone, when you pay for someone's skills and you've mentored the person and you've seen their development, it's easy for companies or corporates to say, okay, we trust you, we can employ your girls. So for me, that was part of a big thing for us, because the impact was not just, oh, we're teaching girls how to code, without collaborating and looking for who can make this impact into this young woman. Impact.
Thank you for that. So you touched on something very powerful there, which is the inclusivity and the fact that, you know, some of this and the opportunities that you got, it was actually men who were at the forefront for you. So Pratna, I just would like to know from you, what is your view in terms of inclusivity, but also collaboration in ensuring that we also include and we engage with men? Because I think in this conference, it's not only women, you know, we also have gentlemen, we've got enablers coming through to ensure that women are successful. So I just want you to touch on inclusivity and the role that male or counterparts have played to get you to where you are today.
Sure. And I think, you know, just when we talk about collaboration and we think about, well, why are we all collaborating here today? For me, it's very important that we hold the why and the North Star of what we are trying to achieve as women in tech. You know, COVID has exposed a lot of our issues in South Africa that we as a country need to deal with. And, you know, having that belief that technology has a role to play in solving these key issues, and realizing that actually men play some very critical roles in corporates and in those key areas within South Africa that can allow us to, you know, open the doors for conversations around how our businesses, how our incubators, or how our organizations can be linked to solving them, I think is important. When it comes to inclusivity, I think what's been interesting for us that we've seen in corporate is that there are some areas where diversity does not exist in terms of talent. In some areas, you'll find that, you know, certain skill sets have a good sort of coverage, but in other cases, you know, it's important that, you know, we realize that not everybody had the opportunity to learn a certain skill today, and that ability to enable programs to allow people of diversity or to relearn, you know, whether it is new skills or whether it's getting them exposure to scholarships and programs and skill and whatever that exists, is to, the collaboration really is to go, what does South Africa need? What can corporates do in terms of the relationships we have with our clients who are in need of these skills? How can us as corporates work with the likes of Future Female and others to help help them understand the types of skills and the types of problems that our clients are trying to solve? And I really see this as almost like a relay, you know, where we all have our part to play in making that happen. So for me, keeping the North Star of what we're trying to solve and leveraging the strengths of all of us within this within the ecosystem is the way we should start to think about it. So it's almost cascading down what we're solving for to the skills we're trying to build.
So thank you for that. You mentioned something quite important, which is the why, and maybe looking at South Africa and the current COVID-19 situation that we are having. So, I mean, Lauren, you're now in London as we're having this conversation. Due to lockdown, obviously, we couldn't have this physically, but I think this just shows the power of collaboration. What is, in your view, the future and the way that we should be going through in terms of collaboration?
I think that we all just need to commit to creating more spaces like this. We as women have a tendency to not want to share our stories, to share our wins, or to share our failures. But we have a responsibility as the women who have been successful in tech so far to to share and to say, this is how I've succeeded, this is where I failed. And I think it applies in corporate as well. You know, something that I experienced was that sometimes female managers don't want to necessarily make it easy for women coming through the ranks because they had to struggle. But we have to create these pathways, and we have to accelerate the empowerment of women. And these forums are how we're going to do that. Showcasing role models, showcasing mentors. And I also just think we need to make it fun. Like, tech is so much fun. It's just about playing and experimenting and seeing that it's not this kind of big, scary, overwhelming thing. It is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to have fun, but also to have impact at scale.
Fantastic. So, Warajang, I see you like nodding. Yes, tech is fun. What is creation of space? What is it for you? What does it mean for you, for us as role models, as women? How do we then get to create the space for other women?
I have a different view in terms of creating space. And I say this view was born by the fact that I've been doing the work for 17 years and there's still no women. The needle is moving very slow. As Lauren said, it's going to take more than almost 108 years to get more women. That even the 50% that everybody is trying to achieve is possible. So my thing is governance. And I've taken upon myself, I even went to study internet governance in Brazil. And for the next thing, I need to influence at the internet governance. I need to influence on the data policy, because that's where women are going to be left behind. We've been not content creators for years. And it's time we take up that space of being the creators of content and the right policies that are going to involve women and involve diversity. Diversity is very key, and inclusiveness, because nowadays, diversity is not just gender. Diversity is anything. We can think of LGBT community. These policies, this creation of tech that's coming today, if it's still written with one mindset, and if it's still written from Silicon Valley as now by white males, it's going to lose a lot of what we offer, a lot of our data. And for me, that's the big thing.
That sounds quite great. So, Pratna, what is next for you in the space of technology, and what do you think we should be looking out for?
Actually, what excites me, Wilani, is really about the sort of convergence of industries. You know, up until today, particularly in my role, we've been solving for the future of banking, or the future of the healthcare sector, or the future of the retail sector. But actually what we're finding now is that industries are converging. Banks are becoming insurance companies, companies are becoming data companies. And actually there is a reimagine of actually what your future business would look like. So as we think about different ways in which companies can start to offer new services through technology, and the new types of partnerships that exist between corporates and in between the industry, there's a lot of innovation taking place there right now. And so as my role at the moment, I'm really passionate on spending time with some of the clients and some of the organizations in South Africa to work out what are the types of services that South African citizens are going to need, and how can we fuse that thinking of technology and business to actually provide those truly unique South African solutions. So that's really what is exciting me at the moment. And together with that is just making sure that I am, through this process, lifting the women that have such a passion for tech and that really just need to have that space within the organization to sort of drive something new and be part of this change. So innovation and the industry convergence.
That sounds like amazing. So Lauren, what's next for you?
What's next for me? I talk so much about creation, but what's next for me is to stop creating and to really take the platform that we've built and scale. So our goal is for future females to be in every city where we're needed. So in every city where there are women who want to be entrepreneurs, who don't necessarily have access to the skills, the mentors that they need to take those first steps and second and third steps. So for me, this is my scale phase. We are aiming to be in 50 cities by the end of the year and to scale our virtual accelerator to 500 graduates. So I'm just really looking forward to that.
Wow, fantastic. I think what's quite interesting for me is that all of you that we're having today, you've spoken at the UN Baratang, something that was a dream come true for you, something you sent to the universe. And then when I look at you, Pratna, you've traveled the world through your job. You've been to various countries just by being a woman in tech. And I think, Lauren, for you, from London to Australia to South Africa, still in technology, which is quite interesting for me. So I want to take this moment for us to just take a couple of questions from our audience so that they can ask you guys, not me, you guys, all the questions that are burning, and we can then just get to understand what we need to do more to collaborate in this space. So Erica, I'm going to hand over to you.
Perfect. We do have a very nice question from Berenice, I think it is. The question is, do you believe that as tech lovers from Africa, we are heavily influenced by Western tech trends, so much so that it's difficult to generate African innovation and build Africa to become one of the leading technology advanced continents? So South Africa has the potential to leapfrog Africa in that direction. So quite a complex question, clearly, but I think really sort of looking at the opportunity for us to be innovative in a South African context. So I think, is there anybody particularly who'd like to jump on this question? Barata?
I believe Africa has opportunities. My theory is that too many problems creates too many opportunities. Africa has so many problems at the moment. And I mean, Lauren sitting on the panel, she's been in South Africa, how many, 2 years, Lauren, or 3 years in South Africa? And in these 3 years, look how far she has achieved. It's because opportunities are there. We just need people that are willing to collaborate with us and people that are willing to respect and listen to Africa. You see, the problems that we are facing as Africans, we are the only people who can solve them. We need cash injection. We need money. We need people who believe that we can partner with this person and in a respectable way. Skill sets. I think Africa has too much skills. It's just that it's at the moment it hasn't been nurtured enough for innovation to get enough funding from government. So if government could fund the innovation that people are coming with, it would be different. Because I mean, I work from the ABSA Innovation Lab every day. And what comes out of the space, Techstars operated from there, and they had like 20 companies. Lauren was working on it from all over the world, being mentored by mentors from South Africa, operating from a country like Africa. And it was amazing to see this, how they scaled, how the solutions are changing. We have opportunities. We just need to know, and we just need people who are respecting what we are offering. I'm going to end there.
Thank you, Berta. Thank you. Berta, would you like to also comment on that one? And then we can kind of wrap it up. I don't think there are any other questions at this stage.
Sure. I mean, I can relate to the comment. You know, there's a lot of the technology innovation has happened. I mean, I spent 7 years out of South Africa. I worked in Singapore, the UK, the US, where a lot of technology innovation has been adopted faster, and you know, lots of the first studies come from there. But I think, you know, when we look at solving problems or looking at opportunities in Africa, what's important is to try to take away some of those learnings, but it's actually to truly understand our problems in South Africa. And I'll take the example of smart city. When we think about a smart city and we think about the trends that are happening around solar charging vehicles, and we think about how cities are being organized, in all parts of the world to enable, using IoT and using all of these technology components to make cities efficient and green and sustainable. It's a really amazing story. But if you think about South Africa or Africa, a smart city is a very different definition, right? How do you ensure the township economy? How do you stimulate that to technology? How do you ensure that safety within South Africa is smarter and more efficient? And actually, what drives a smart city needs to be defined differently. The technology is there, it has been implemented in different ways, but I really agree, it does start with who are we solving for, and really solving with South African citizens, and redefining what that means for us. Because once we have a view of what we're doing for impact in South Africa, and it goes back to the why, we can rewrite the Africa story in technology. So I think it's a very good point, and I think it's how do we, what we call, localize what we're seeing around the world.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pratha. Well, you're going to wrap it up for us?
Great. So
yes, so I just wanted to thank you, Walani, for moderating. You did a brilliant job, and thank you all the speakers for joining us for this exciting launch of our chapter, and also being part of the global stage. I think it's exciting to be part of the 24-hour, global world virtual tour, which is awesome, and to put South Africa on the map as well. Because we've got great talent, we've got great skills. Like you mentioned, in South Africa, and I think the world needs to hear about it and to showcase our talent. And the reason why I think Women in Tech, our chapter, is all about the do and the what's next. So if there are any questions around that, then please they can ask us and join our membership through our website, which is the womenintech.org South Africa website. And then we can continue to work on exciting projects and programs and really change lives. So that's what we envision for this chapter.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think if we are finished, we can just log off, and then that should be a wrap. But thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you.